Well, they say they do it to protect the public. We're talking about whistleblowers who take their employers to the mat.
It's not only allowed, it's encouraged. There's a federal agency to protect whistleblowers from retaliation. But now that agency is being criticized.
Investigative reporter Vicki Wynn joins us to explain. Vicki.
Well, Jess, it is called the OSHA Whistleblower Protection Program. It was created to shield the workers on the front lines of industries that affect our safety. But tonight you'll hear from insiders who say the agency is hurting the very people it should be helping, and that puts all of us at risk.
The fertilizer plant explosion in West Texas. The blowout of the Deepwater Horizon in the Gulf.
1666.
The San Bruno pipeline rupture. All fatal events burned into the mind of Daryl Whitman.
You could see it happening in front of you. It's like watching an accident in slow motion.
He says they're examples of what can happen when OSHA's Whistleblower Protection Program fails to meet its mission. Whitman has worked as a whistleblower investigator for the past 5 years in Region 9, which covers 4 states and Guam. He examines complaints from workers who've been fired for speaking up about problems that can harm the public. The program addresses 22 areas, ranging from corporate fraud to pipeline safety to nuclear power.
So when someone from one of those industries comes to blow the whistle, people in the government should pay attention.
Absolutely. Congress intends that.
Is that happening?
No.
Shortly after he started his job in 2010, Whitman discovered a disturbing pattern of what he considered mismanagement in his office and pressure to clear cases quickly.
I was told by my supervisor, oh, just conduct an interview and dismiss it.
Before you knew any of the facts?
Correct.
To dismiss these whistleblower concerns?
Correct.
Whitman points to 2 cases he calls slam dunks, cases where his investigations found companies broke the law, firing workers who reported serious safety concerns.
There's really no room to cut corners.
For 3 years, Aaron Stuckey worked as a flight service specialist for Lockheed Martin. He helped pilots plan safe paths by alerting them to weather conditions.
I want that pilot to know everything that they need to know so that the pilot and everybody aboard that aircraft can safely get to their destination and see their families that night.
From an aircraft hangar in Arizona, he recounts what led him to blow the whistle.
I felt it was a morally right thing to do, absolutely. I've always believed in disclosure. I've always believed in being upfront and being honest.
Stuckey wasn't certified to assist pilots in all parts of the U.S., just in 3 mountain states. But often calls came from locations he wasn't familiar with. He says managers instructed him not to reveal his actual location when pilots called for help.
I would say, well, this isn't safe and this is really deceptive to the aviation community, and I'm not comfortable with that.
After repeated warnings, he was fired for not following Lockheed's policy. The company told us in a statement his claim of retaliation was found to be without merit.
The whole compromised testing process technically could put the whole nation at risk.
Mike Madry tells a similar story. For a decade, he served as a quality assurance manager for M-Lab P&K, a major indoor air quality testing company in the U.S. In 2009, Madry documented multiple labs misusing the device that records test results for asbestos. That's a cancer-causing carcinogen found in many older homes and schools. He said it called into question the accuracy of thousands of tests.
It can result in people dying.
He says he also found this San Bruno lab was cutting corners by conducting tests in just 20 seconds instead of the standard time of 5 to 10 minutes.
I asked repeatedly how these tests were able to be done in such a short period of time, and I never got a clear answer from management.
He too was fired. He says the company told him it was because he failed to return from medical leave. M-Lab declined to comment, citing pending litigation. Whitman found both men faced retaliation for reporting safety issues. His investigation called for the companies to rehire them with back pay. Instead, he says Region 9 managers mishandled the cases and dismissed them.
It creates victims for the whistleblowers that come to us. A lot of them suffer more retaliation from the agency than they did from their company.
In fact, Whitman was so upset about the outcome of Madry's case, he asked the National OSHA office to investigate. It did, and agreed with him.
And they eventually found it as merit.
Your original findings?
Yes.
Madry and Stuckey are just 2 of 8 whistleblowers we spoke with who work in safety-sensitive sectors: airlines, hazardous waste, trucking, and nuclear industries. all believe Region 9 management mishandled their complaints.
This is a second report.
Whitman believes the system is set up to get rid of cases rather than investigate them. Just look at the cases in Region 9 awarded merit, which is a victory for the whistleblower. Numbers show OSHA issued merit findings 16 times out of 562 investigations since 2009. That's just 2.8% of the cases. Nationally, the numbers are equally dismal at 2.7%. Whitman shared with us these emails between multiple investigators in his office, highlighting concerns over pressure to close out more cases and meet quotas.
It was always first and foremost about how can we do these things faster.
This former whistleblower investigator agreed to speak with us only if we disguised her.
If all you're doing is trying to do a production line of investigation, you're not assisting anybody.
What's more, Whitman points to his reports. He says they were altered by management to change his conclusions without his consent.
And what is this an example of to you?
It's an example of falsification of documents.
It's your name.
It's my name, and it's not my report.
He's lodged formal complaints all the way up to the U.S. Secretary of Labor, and he's faced discipline for giving whistleblowers internal information about how he thought their cases were mishandled.
I think as soon as you broadcast anything, I'll be fired.
The irony is not lost on Whitman, an investigator from OSHA's whistleblower office, now a whistleblower himself. But he wants the public to know the system designed to protect our safety is broken.
You either quit your job or you keep your mouth shut. Because if the company doesn't fire you and blacklist you, OSHA will destroy your life. As a consequence, there's a lot of things that aren't being reported. And that's the scarier part.
OSHA Region 9 declined interview requests, citing an ongoing personnel investigation. But late this morning, a national OSHA spokesman contacted us and called the allegations, quote, preposterous. He said nationally, OSHA has reorganized its program and added more staff to help with the backlog of cases. But Jess and Raj, no one at the national office will speak with us on camera.
Very interesting. Thank you, Vicki.
Daryl Whitman put his career on the line to expose what he calls dysfunction within OSHA. He said the agency is hurting the very people it's supposed to protect, workers who are fired for reporting safety problems that can harm the public. Now we've learned Whitman is the one out of a job.
They got rid of the squeaky wheel.
Daryl Whitman calls it retaliation. He says he was fired from his job as an investigator in the Federal Whistleblower Protection Program for exposing what he calls a disturbing pattern of mismanagement in OSHA's Region 9 office in San Francisco.
I was going to report when I saw what I thought to be violations of law and policy. I was going to report them, and they were going to have to be responsive to the reports, and they didn't like that.
Whitman spoke out to the investigative unit earlier this year. He says he tried to warn OSHA leaders managers were pressuring employees to close cases without properly investigating. He says they wanted to clear a growing backlog.
I went through every conceivable channel, and what I saw was inaction.
Whitman says his supervisor altered his reports to change his conclusions and dismissed whistleblower complaints, even when Whitman found they had merit. And when we reviewed OSHA's whistleblower cases, the results were dismal. In Region 9, OSHA found in favor of just 2.8% of all cases.
Oh, for sake. Can we at least assume that this do-gooding gentleman, whose specific job it is to help whistleblowers avoid punishment, will be rewarded for his courage?
Whitman's case gained national attention on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
I think as soon as you broadcast anything, I'll be fired.
In termination papers, OSHA states it fired Whitman for 6 reasons. They include lack of candor during an investigatory meeting and unauthorized release of government information. Whitman admits he gave complainants information about how he thought their cases were mishandled.
The real reason was that I appeared on your program.
Whitman himself is now a complainant before another government agency, the Office of Special Counsel. The OSC protects federal employees from retaliation for whistleblowing. If he's successful, Whitman's claim could result in a settlement with OSHA or financial reinstatement.
Retaliation doesn't end.
Representing Whitman is Tom Devine, legal director of GAP, the Government Accountability Project. Over the past 3 decades, Devine has testified before Congress, helped pass whistleblower laws, and assisted thousands of whistleblowers.
Individual humans are the Achilles heel of bureaucratic corruption, and that's the people that we specialize in helping.
A critic of the OSHA Whistleblower Protection Program, Devine believes Whitman's claims have merit.
They ring true based on our own experience and the complaints of lawyers who investigated whistleblowers. Then when we start hearing them from the people who are responsible to protect the whistleblowers, it really strikes a chord.
OSHA declined to comment on Whitman's allegations because it is an ongoing personnel case. In emails, OSHA has acknowledged problems with the whistleblower program, but said the agency has taken steps to improve them. Meanwhile, Whitman hopes for reform. He says he risked and lost his job to expose what he considers the program's failure to protect public health and safety.
It may be one of the most important programs in the federal government because it touches all of our lives in different ways.
Now, Whitman says OSHA dismisses too many valid complaints and finds in favor of too few whistleblowers. We finally have the numbers from the National OSHA office, and tonight at 11 we'll break them down and we'll explain to you what's being proposed to fix all of these problems at OSHA.
It's a very important story. We'll see you at 11 o'clock, Vicki.
All right. The Federal Whistleblower Protection Program is full of reports from workers across the nation who say they have been fired for raising red flags about public health and safety. Critics say their reports are wallowing in a backlog, most of them getting dismissed even when they shouldn't. Now we're seeing for the first time just how often the government finds in favor of whistleblowers.
From airlines to pipelines, they're the workers on the front lines who speak up when systems break down. The government built a safety net for whistleblowers who get fired for raising red flags about safety issues or illegal activities. It's called the Whistleblower Protection Program, and it's run by OSHA.
Whistleblowers don't have a fighting chance when they seek justice at this agency.
Tom Devine has fought for whistleblowers for more than 3 decades. He's testified before Congress and helped pass national whistleblower laws. Now he helps defend employees against retaliation.
The OSHA program has been so counterproductive that I view it as a Trojan horse. It's an agency we warn whistleblowers about.
I was told by my supervisor, oh, just conduct an interview and dismiss it.
Before you knew any of the facts?
Correct.
Whistleblower investigator Daryl Whitman spoke out to the investigative unit earlier this year. He said supervisors in OSHA's Region 9 office in San Francisco pressured investigators to close cases without proper review and dismissed complaints even when he found they had merit. Whitman pointed to the numbers in Region 9. OSHA found cases had merit less than 3% of the time.
Is it an acceptable number to you?
No, absolutely not.
Now we've learned it's not just Region 9. The investigative unit crunched the numbers for all 10 OSHA regions across the nation. We found from 2004 to 2014, the agency awarded merit to cases less than 2% of the time. About 22% of cases resulted in settlements. OSHA calls those outcomes favorable to the complainant. But the numbers show OSHA dismissed 59% of whistleblower cases, the majority of complaints it investigated.
I'd characterize it as obscene.
What's more, we found in 7 of the 22 industries protected by whistleblower laws, OSHA did not issue a single merit finding. Our investigation also found whistleblowers have to wait a long time for answers. OSHA is supposed to complete investigations in 90 days or less, but the agency reports 71% of all cases failed to meet that deadline. The average time it takes OSHA to complete a case has increased from 98 days in 2004 to 378 days in 2014.
There's no excuse for how long the cases take.
Devine says in many cases, staff lack training. OSHA allows companies up to a year to respond to a complaint, and managers add delays by reinvestigating certain cases. That time takes a toll on whistleblowers.
They lose their homes. Their lives are a living hell while OSHA fiddles.
NBC Bay Area spoke with more than a dozen whistleblowers who believe OSHA unfairly dismissed their complaints or dragged out their cases, including these men. They raised red flags about environmental testing and aviation.
I couldn't sleep. I had problems eating. I have nightmares.
Take a ping pong ball and put it inside a blender and turn it on. I'm that ball.
OSHA has acknowledged problems. A series of government reports dating back 25 years found delays in investigating and deciding complaints, and complainants did not always receive appropriate investigations. Neil Gintolik led the whistleblower program from 2006 to 2011. She says OSHA leaders asked her to reform the flailing agency.
I think it was lip service, and that no one really had any great intention of doing anything terribly different than they already did it.
Tolick says recommendations outlined in this white paper landed on deaf ears.
I mean, it drove me out.
She left OSHA with this conclusion.
I think the solution is apparent, but nobody wants to do it, which is to move the entire program out of OSHA.
NBC Bay Area made requests to interview Dr. David Michaels, the head of OSHA. He declined. Instead, OSHA pointed us to this April memo Michaels wrote saying, "We are focused on improving both the efficiency and quality of our investigations." Michaels says the program reached a record number of merit findings in 2013, 75 out of more than 3,700. He notes monetary awards to whistleblowers more than doubled in a span of 4 years, from $15 million to $35 million. His memo concludes, no one benefits if workers are silenced for sounding an alarm when they see a problem that could injure, sicken, or kill someone.
Dr. David Michaels has given some very inspiring speeches about his desire for this to become an effective worker rights organization. So far, the rhetoric is not clothed in reality.